Cat litter?
The holy quest for cat litter.
That's right. Well, I mean,
How come they get to litter?
got a lot of cats. Cats are allowed to litter.
They are. That's weird that that's what it's called.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the RetroBlasting live stream. I'll let you both introduce yourselves, and then I'll...
Hi, I'm Melinda.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Hi, I'm Michael. Hope you guys
we are RetroBlasting.
hope you guys are having a
And
good...
we're RetroBlasting.
I hope you guys are having a good Saturday. We are getting set up right here to discuss the varying scales of 80s toys and how that played into our decision making in toy aisles, and also what that meant for the quality of these lines. Now, obviously, like all of our live streams, this is going to be an open Q&A, so whatever you guys want to ask during the discussion that I'm having with Aaron and Melinda is fine. Just throw your questions in there, no problem. If you're having any difficulty hearing us, please let us know now, because we want to make sure that
Everyone says the sound is great.
Oh, awesome. Good. Okay, so quick question to both of you. When you were growing up, did you guys gravitate towards larger toys or smaller scale toys?
I'll let you go first.
Well, for girls, it was, Barbies are the large scale.
Uh-huh.
And, things like My Little Pony, or I guess Strawberry Shortcake would be the smaller version of that. We didn't really have, until later in the 80s when we started getting She-Ra, we didn't really have the same kind of situation as you guys. So I think I was pretty firmly entrenched in Barbie, unfortunately. So that means that the play sets are all really, really big and expensive, and the cars are really, really big and expensive, and so your parents don't buy you as much of that.
Right.
So you end up with, a lot more Strawberry Shortcakes, but you really want more Barbies. That was how it was for me.
Right. Okay. What about you, Aaron?
I grew up in Soviet Alabama, and a lot of the toys that I got to play with, and Mask plays really big into this, was just sort of the totes that we had in whatever daycare situation I was in. But it was either like Lego for me, or honestly, I love the vehicles. So I think the larger vehicles, the character size needed to work with the vehicles. But
Right.
I was gravitating towards the vehicles, and then whatever worked with the vehicles.
I see. So you went for the vehicles first, and then just found figures of a size that would work with it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Because it was sort of a hodgepodge of whatever we were granted.
Right.
And then from there, we would build our armies and have our large campaigns.
Gotcha.
Did you
take
ever
over.
try to combine things like in weird ways, like so that you've got the older brother, little? I don't know how guys play with toys.
I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of character development going on.
No, oh, okay.
Well,
Mine
there-
had elaborate backstories and things like that. So
Yeah, I think it's like if you had access to a card back, it was like, oh, okay. Yeah, he's mad about stuff.
See, the thing that I always found, there seemed to be this inverse relationship where the larger scale a toy line got, with some exceptions, but for the most part, the larger scale a toy line got, the less detail it had. And the smaller a toy line got, the more detail they infused into it.
Do you think that was because they infused less detail, or because naturally shrinking something from its mold or from whatever it was created as sort of clusters the detail together and makes it feel more detailed?
I wonder if they're maybe trying to infuse it with something that makes it feel like it's worth the money you just plunk down for it. I don't know. It's weird. So like He-Man, for example, this battle ram, this blue thing right here, it's got some detail, but a lot of the detail is dependent on the stickers that you put on it in these big flat areas, right? And then you look at something like the Wind Raider, which was the flying thing. It's just basically a green plastic bathtub. There's no detail on the inside, it's just kind of this big chunky figure, can sit in it. But then if you look at Mask, right, which is over there, or you look at G.I. Joe even, which is one step up from Mask, that dune buggy from G.I. Joe, the Off-Striker, and the Mask Thunderhawk, real rubber tires and movable steering wheels, and the grill work on the the side steps, and all that's kind of molded in. And so it's like the smaller it gets, the more detailed it becomes. And then I know I'm kind of just like vomiting at the mouth here, but
wow.
no, really. But then certain lines like Centurions, they put all the detail they could into the figures.
Yep.
to the point that they didn't have any vehicles or play sets. I mean, they had
Well, this guy's clearly a vehicle by himself.
Yeah, they had other attachments to put on him, but they didn't have like, it's almost like they spent their budget on the molding process just for the figure, but because it was so big, there's no expansion of the line.
Thank you, Sal, for the super chat. Sal says, opinions on Force Friday toys already being clearanced out in some locations and the lack of a dedicated 3 3/4 line for episode 9.
Again, yeah, Hasbro is in a tailspin with that. I mean, they are in a tough spot because they haven't been properly distributing and allocating what they're going to make each year for quite a few years now. And so since the distribution is bad and what they've decided to make is not appealing, and also the combination with Disney not creating appealing things in the new movies to really make toys from, you have a perfect storm. And so I don't know if you guys saw, I posted it on the RetroBlasting Instagram this past week. I saw the commemorative Star Wars figures that were just spray painted gold. They're just pre-existing figures from a few years ago, just brought out of mothballs, painted gold, solid gold, and just put on card backs.
Like, like you're accepting an Emmy award or something, or?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're like little.
Thank you.
So, and nobody wants to pay $19.99 for those. I mean,
we need to do a clip of that. I just keep giving you these
Yeah.
solid gold toys, and
Right.
you give a little speech and you put it on your mantle.
Well, you know what I'd love to do is just go find the original figures that they based them on.
We're not spray painting those gold.
for pennies, and just spray painting them gold and saying, "Look, I've got the set."
Oh, you mean from a few years ago?
Yeah,
I thought you
yeah.
meant like vintage. I
No,
was
no,
like,
no,
"Oh."
no. No, these aren't even vintage. These are just like from a few years back. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
I would get a solid gold Porg.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about
What
that.
would you say is the most inconsistently scaled line of the 80s?
Inconsistently scaled. Good question.
I mean, there were certainly some playset examples where they took a playset that had clearly been designed for a different toy line so that it didn't fit. And you have characters that can't walk through. I think, is it Castle Grayskull where,
Or Snake Mountain.
or Snake Mountain, that's right. That where the figures, like, you can't get them through unless you turn them sideways and sort of float them through the door.
I would say the most inconsistently scaled toy line is Generation 1 Transformers.
Yeah, I was going to say Transformers just because there are multiple toy lines.
Let me illustrate. You guys deal with the chat, and I'll grab a few examples.
It's early days.
Yeah. Well, Transformers, though, to me, kind of has an excuse because their origin toy lines are actually different scales. So at least there's a logical reason for that, whereas the other stuff is just laziness
it didn't make
or
it any easier for us.
No. The end result is just as frustrating, but
I have to wonder that also just because of the fact that they were trying to make things that would transform into specific vehicles. If you had scale drift, if the vehicle they were trying to match was some weird size or something like that, so you'd end up with characters that didn't match their size in the cartoon, or at least
or you have things where it's like you couldn't possibly make a vehicle to scale if you've got like the Millennium Falcon, or if you've got like the Ghostbusters Firehouse where the car barely fits inside, just because otherwise the thing would be so big no parent would buy it for their kid. So
like a big G.I. Joe boat of some kind.
Right.
So, like, if you look at...
I don't know what that would be.
What would I'm not
I
sure
don't even
either.
know.
I mean, I was
If
just
you look
shot
at
in the
these
dark.
ones that I just brought out, from the left, you've got Grimlock. Grimlock, in his dinosaur form, should be towering over all of these Transformers, and he's not. Then you've got Optimus, who should be pretty tall. He's one of the taller Transformer characters in the standard run of characters. Bumblebee is next to him. He's way too small. And then next to him is Shockwave. Now, Shockwave was never tiny.
That's Bumbleflea.
Right, Bumbleflea. Shockwave was never tiny, but he shouldn't be towering over Optimus and Grimlock. So I would say...
Grimlock definitely needs to be bigger just because he's cooler.
Yeah.
Because he's the best one.
But yeah, I would say Transformers is definitely the most wacky, out-of-scale line that they ever made.
Yeah, so how did that affect your playing with it?
It was tough because, you'd sit there and go, well, Bumblebee is more equipped to play with the GoBots than he is to play with, Optimus and all these other characters. He's just way, way, way too small.
Did you have to just totally? I'm sorry.
No.
Did you have to totally suspend your disbelief when you're playing with him? Like, just imagine them being.
Yeah.
Like this guy is just really far away.
That's
so he
what
looks.
I was gonna say. I was really hoping you didn't nail that one.
Oh,
I was gonna say you could really do something with forced perspective.
Yeah, I mean it was tough sometimes, and
Here comes Optimus.
But then also, you see this descending scale here at the front, which I guess is now somewhat obscured by the Transformers. But all of these lines, you're trying to, as a kid, get things that appeal to you, but then they're all made in these different scales, and so you have to really suspend your disbelief when you're working with them. Like, for example, sometimes there was good luck with it where it worked out. So like Mask worked really well with Transformers because the people were so small. So it was like on the show, oh my gosh, the Transformers are towering over the humans, and now we've all got to work together. Whereas on the other hand, something like GoBots wouldn't work so well with G.I. Joe or Mask because the vehicles they turn into are much smaller than the action figures themselves. So it's a game.
Wow, thank you again so much, Sal. He says, I'm cautiously optimistic for Hasbro's Star Wars lines over the next couple years because we are finally going back to having
a non-film year.
So they go backwards and make more desired, never produced characters.
So. Yeah. Well, that is the hope too. I mean, it seems like they are trying with the product selection they're coming out with, the Jabba's Palace playset, the skiff, but they do it in these kind of haphazard themes. So like right now they're completely fixated on the Sarlacc pit scene, but we still don't actually have a Sarlacc pit itself. Even 36 years on, we still don't have a Sarlacc pit. But we have the sail barge and the skiffs and the Jabba's guards and all that kind of stuff.
But I always had a sandbox. I mean, that was a fairly, if you had the barge, barge being what it is, but, you could sort of imitate that scene.
Sure. No, absolutely. But it's just weird that they're making everything else from that scene in toy form.
Yeah.
Raymond, thank you so much for the very kind comment. Please continue. I have to call out things.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. What was the comment? I didn't get to see it.
Well, you don't get to see it.
Oh.
He actually knows all of our names. That's pretty interesting. And he says that we've provided him some much-needed joy through the rough times, and he thanks us.
Oh, well, thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad that we can play a positive part in people's Saturday. So I'm going to move these Transformers over so that we can get back to this. But
so that they don't fall and break.
So they don't fall and break Cyborg behind him.
Yeah, yes. Mr. T is going to eventually lose his patience and just knock him off the front there.
That's right.
So, Michael, you posted earlier about, he's not at his mic, but about how cool Ray looked in, that one iteration. Is there a toy, that kind of mimics that look, or?
Yeah, they did I'll just quickly get back to my mic. Yeah, they did a Black Series 6-inch Ray from The Last Jedi. To give you guys some context, on my personal Facebook page this past week,
Thank you, Jody.
I said that, Jody, thank you so much.
And thank you, Uzi Patrol, very much. He says that I think there should be a Centurions movie and figure reboot.
Yeah, Centurions would be a really great figure reboot for sure. I'd love to see a Silverhawks reboot. But on my personal Facebook page last week, I posted an answer to a question that I had gotten. I get this question a lot. Is there anything from the new Star Wars trilogy that you like? And I said, yes, there is one thing that I've noticed from the new Star Wars trilogy that I actually like. And while it is a window dressing thing, it's a details thing, I said I liked Rey's entire look in the latter act of The Last Jedi. All that entire sort of Jedi warrior-ish, samurai-ish sort of look that she had in her costume, her hairstyle, all that looked really great. Now, that has nothing to do...
It made sense also given sort of the history of the way the Jedi looked.
Right.
So.
To me, it's kind of like how Padme looked really cool.
Yeah.
In a lot of the very first Episode 1 movie, but, that doesn't mean the movie's great.
Right. It just means that costume
designer did a great job.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so there is a Black Series Rey that came with it was a 2-pack Toys R Us exclusive that came with Old Man Luke Skywalker. And that ray is in there. And the reason that one's kind of superior to the more mass-produced version of that in the Black series is because that ray's tabard, or whatever you want to call it, is actually cloth. Whereas the mass-produced one that's like at every store was just sort of like a rubbery plastic.
Okay, so it wasn't like molded into the form, but
right. It was a cloth piece that went, and so she looks pretty cool. So I would say that action figure, like, I don't want it because I don't like the movie.
Right.
But yes, they did make an action figure of that look for that character.
Just curious.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, a lot of people have asked me about talking about gem toys, and that actually my reason as a kid anyway for not liking gem is because my cousin had a gem doll, and whenever I would have my Barbies near a gem doll, the gem doll is just enough taller and bigger in scale that it's just weird. So it's not like you can play with them unless you're kind of, maybe doing a RuPaul's Drag Race type of episode, because she looks very, I don't know. And I guess the scale kind of is a problem because Barbie, Mattel, they probably had a patent on their, I don't know if you can patent a size, but certainly the mold.
Right.
And so they completely did their own mold, and it just happened to be just a little bit bigger. And so it's just, it looks weird when you put them all together.
Mm-hmm.
There were always lawsuits about that between the lines. Just for people who look too much like somebody else or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, Jim was always the cartoon I just sort of had to deal with that my sisters watched.
The cartoon is bizarre as well, so yeah.
But I know a lot of old school Jim fans out there, so.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. But like let's take Soundwave, for example.
Yeah.
Turns into a giant cassette player.
Right.
There aren't many action figure lines that can even use that toy as a real stereo. Like
I would actually like that if you had Optimus Prime, roll out, doing his thing, and all of a sudden he's like, and he's like a giant cassette player right next to Optimus.
You could have
Prime.
a weird version, like if they had made a Back to the Future toy line. You could have a cool scene where like Marty plays the guitar thing, and like the music comes out of Soundwave.
Oh, so
like
you
that.
incorporate him into play? Yeah, that's true. But that's like
a very specific.
Scene. I mean, I guess you could use Soundwave with the Gem Dolls because they are a band.
True.
Barbie and the Rockers.
Like as a stage or something.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah. Right. So.
I feel like you and I should review the Barbie and the Rockers music that came out on the cassette tape with the.
Can you imagine that? I think I've still got a tape player laying around somewhere.
I do, for sure.
Apparently, it's all the rage now. All the kids out there.
Yeah, they're even making new cassettes for some of these new songs.
Oh, great! So we can drive down the road like it's the '80s and just see that endless wave of cassette tape coming out of the trees. I thought we were done with that.
No, we're not.
No, it's back.
Yep.
Thank you, JD, for the super chat. I don't know if this is going to count as a Star Wars spoiler. It's a rumor, so if you don't like rumors and whatever, maybe skip ahead a little bit. But his question is, how does everyone feel about the rumor of the secret Skywalker in the new movie? I predict that Finn is the illegitimate child of Leia and Lando.
You can't. I mean,
who knows?
The rubber's going to meet the road in 6 weeks. No, we're not going to know. I mean,
maybe I'm a little jaded, but sometimes I feel like some of these reveals that happen in any movie, not just Star Wars, are very much just like, all right, Michael, go ahead and draw out who the character's going to be.
Right.
Oh, Darth Maul is the bad guy,
Yeah, I just let it roll out and see what happens. I mean,
nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
JSP, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, not optimistic for reboots given how Hollywood is. I think that's very fair to say.
I agree with that as far as the actual filmed entertainment. What I would like to see, which I haven't seen a lot of, like I keep bringing this up every live stream probably, but with modern toy technology, I would love to see a commemorative action figure line for Silverhawks. For example, I don't mind relaunched lines of toys. My concern is when they relaunch the show over and over again and they keep watering it down. Like it's one thing to have a commemorative product. And I know that what they're trying to do, they're trying to get something for the kids to watch that will then get them interested in the products. So I get that a little bit, but they haven't figured out the secret sauce to make those shows not suck. And so
The best example I've seen recently is the new She-Ra cartoon. My daughters watch it fairly often, and it's actually pretty entertaining.
Is it?
I mean, it's definitely at a kid's level, but it works. Like it doesn't just feel like a pandering mess.
Right.
For them to go out and buy, She-Ra toys.
Right. That's the only one
so
I
I'm
haven't.
still like, you know who He-Man is, right? Who? Oh, here we go.
Well, that's the only one I haven't heard any scuttle about.
Yeah, I mean, it's
since
just
it
sort
came
of
out.
doing its thing, but it just got a bunch of new episodes. And then you have things like Superhero Girls, some of the DC, female leads. They've had several iterations of that show, and I think their most recent one's doing a little better as far as just being edgier and funnier.
Right.
But, that's one, like you said, that they just keep relaunching and relaunching and relaunching.
Right, right.
Michael, what do you think about Mad Balls?
I have mine from childhood. Let me get it.
So everybody should be feeling a little buzzy right now if you've been taking a drink
That's
every time.
right. That's right. Someone asked me what I think about the Bandai Star Wars figure models, and I don't know because I've kind of stopped looking at Star Wars related things because I'm so burned out on Star Wars right now. So I'm not sure. Michael might be able to tell me.
We got a Bandai figure model as a donation last live stream from a good friend of the channel. It was the Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi, and I can't wait to put it together. It looks amazing.
Oh, that actually looked really cool. Like,
yeah.
Those look cool. I'd like to see more of those.
It kind of follows into the artifact category.
So this is my Mad Ball from when I was a kid. This is Screamin' Mimi. It's the only Mad Ball I ever had. And ever will have, probably, because these things are made of that foam where they start to degenerate and fall apart. It's amazing this one's even lasted as well as it has. I never really understood the whole Mad Ball craze as a kid. I kind of was like, I liked this one because it was like a crazy baseball, and
it reminded me of like Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah,
in that weird, gross out kind of way. Like that was really trendy for a while. Gross, creepy looking thing.
I could see parents walking down the aisle though for a birthday or something and being like,
right,
get one of those.
I think it was one of those things that makes your parents mad, and so you want it.
But the thing is that they're very expensive now, mostly because they disintegrate. And so people are like, oh, Mad Balls are these, crazy collectible things. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, I don't hate them. They're obviously I had one growing up, but I don't know if I'd go recollect them. It's kind of like saying, am I really going to go out and collect the Barnyard Commandos? Probably
I don't know. I
not.
think these are cooler than Barnyard Commandos.
Yeah, they are. I'm not comparing the two in that way. I'm just saying I just don't know if I'm going to go out and try and, get them.
Beta Ray Bob says that he thinks the secret sauce to get kids into retro lines is to not make the reboots too tied to the old lines, since kids probably want their own thing instead of their parents' thing. I personally 100% agree with that. I think they need to have, and what that's going to take is actual writing ability, so that you have like a new story that's set in that universe or set with some piece that's come forward. Like if you redid Back to the Future, you pull in a car, or if you're doing, maybe have the Millennium Falcon and like the new Star Wars stuff, but not the actual actors and all the same things, like as callbacks. Like tell a new story with a new line of characters that are interesting and well written. And yeah, you're right. That's going to be more interesting, don't you think, Michael?
Yeah, I guess I just don't understand why. Okay, so when we were growing up, our parents had been raised on the Lone Ranger and Howdy Doody and all of these things that they didn't really try very hard to reboot in our faces when we were growing up. They gave us new stuff, which our parents thought was silly, but we liked it. And now we're in this world where there are a few newer things, like Pokemon is newer. It's not brand new, but it's newer to us. They've got Frozen. They've got a few new things, but a lot of the things that the entertainment industry is trying to pump out are the things that we grew up with again and again and again.
Look at things like the Bandai toy line and stuff like that. A lot of the stuff that we see now is toys, like we asked about Ray. They end up being things that are geared more towards people who have jobs.
Right, yeah.
Not people who are dependent on people who have jobs.
Right.
And when we were kids getting these toys, this was all stuff we wanted our parents to buy us.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get it and then put it on their shelf. So
right.
This is kind of a unique situation we're in. I will tie back to She-Ra and what you said. That is an example where they took a property that we do have a lot of reverence for, and they took it in a new direction that they are. I think they are trying hard to write it well. I wouldn't say it's like literature or anything, but you know, it is you know,
Right.
it's a story that I can follow, and I can sit there and eat my dinner and kind of be like, I'm not angry that this is on the TV, which is not something I could say about everything that's out there.
Right.
And which is great when you have kids, I'm sure.
Yes.
Juras, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, "Is there a video on Godaiken coming, Spider-Man?"
Oh, I am so glad that you asked. Yes, I am working on a video about Spider-Man, Japanese Spider-Man. Yes, I am working on a video about that, and I hope that it will land maybe, if I'm lucky, December, if not January, because I've got the series, I'm watching it, so I'm hoping to do that video within the next few months. It won't be November, unfortunately.
I want to hear more about this.
You haven't heard of this?
No. What
Oh,
you're doing.
Oh, okay.
No, there are many days when I'm very depressed and I go find some clips of this show, and I'm instantly happy.
Well, because
and
this was
held
one of
again.
those things that you suggested that Aaron and I do for a Dreamland, and I mean that's one thing, but there's something about the visuals of that show that it feels like a podcast would not quite
Well,
capture
maybe as a tie-in,
Maybe,
you know?
but yeah, the tie-in of the podcast would be the whole behind the scenes about it, whereas I'm probably just going to be reviewing the content of the show and the logic of the story.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a place for both drops, as it were.
Toys are too expensive now. Where did pocket money toys go?
Pocket money toys. Yeah, good point. I was just at a Rite Aid buying gumdrops, candy for.
Yeah, if you're on
Our
the
patrons got
Patreon,
to see some
our
of that.
patrons got to see little snippets of us having fun.
Including
Yeah.
me doing a baritone rendition of a Seal song.
And I
Being really loud.
I did
in
a
the store.
drive-by of the toy aisle there in the drugstore, which should be, you know, the perfect place to get, you know, pocket money toys. And now it's all just like 2 Star Wars figures on a peg. Both of them are $19.99.
And
There's
a
a
plastic beach shovel.
Yes, a plastic beach shovel and like a few small Lego sets that are also overpriced at $14.99 each, and they come in a box the size of a matchbook.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going,
Sometimes they come with some of that great gum.
yeah.
Just kidding.
Oh my god.
So I bet you the pocket money toys, honestly, are at Dollar Tree. They're at the dollar stores now, or the
Here's another
the
question.
pound
Rite
stores.
Aid.
Do children have pocket money anymore?
Rite Aid is not where you find them. I just said we were just at the Rite Aid.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was reading comments. So I can't read comments and listen to you, so I'm just.
Oh,
Yeah. It's like when I'm at work and I'm in a meeting. I'm just kidding if my boss is watching this. But, yeah. So a lot of people are thanking you, Michael, for the Tubbs video.
oh, you're welcome.
So,
You know,
do you want to talk about that at all for anyone who hasn't seen that video?
sure. Yeah, that would actually be. That's actually a good point. A lot of people, I think, are avoiding that video because they think it is actually about Tubbs. Watch the video. This channel would never betray you on that front. If I'm doing a video about something that you think, why is Michael doing a video about this? Those are the ones you should really click on. Because you think it's not going to interest you, but it's only 2.5 minutes, and
I was watching from afar, and I really thought you'd gone off on a bender that morning.
yeah.
Because the screenshots you were sending me were of you with like a highball and just like tears
At like
running
9 a.m.
down. And I was like, yes.
But yeah, what happened with that, because there's been some confusion about how that all unfolded. Just to be clear, somebody who was working as a marketing or PR agency for Numbskull, they came at me through another Twitter account, hit me up and asked me, first they tricked me. They said, hey, love your stuff. I'm trying to send you a direct message, but I can't. So if you could follow me back, I've got something that's really 80s retro pop culture that you'd be interested in that you need to see. And
That's
I went,
old school sales right
yeah,
there.
and I went, okay. So I followed the person back, and they were like, hey, buddy, my name's Chris, and I want to tell you about Tubbs. Have you ever heard
Was it
of
one of
them?
those talking
Tubbs
tweets?
with a Z.
Tubbs with a Z, Tubbs.
Oh, why does
and
it be a
and
Z?
they're these cool ducks that are like made up to look like all your favorite characters from all your favorite franchises, and I'm immediately like,
Other than Darkwing, there's never been a cool duck.
I'm just like, no, there has not.
I'd like a Freakazoid duck.
I mean, Daffy was pretty cool, although Bugs always got the upper hand.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, the guy rooked me in the thing, and then he's asking me if he wants if I want him to send me some samples of these things, obviously to review. Well, no. So I didn't respond at all to the guy. And I sat there for a minute mulling on it, and I thought, this is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. Loot Crate tried to do this to us years ago. Gosh, I wish I'd done a video like that on Loot Crate at the time, but now that they've gone bankrupt.
You should just open random boxes.
But I didn't, yeah, but I didn't answer Loot Crate, and I certainly didn't answer the Tubbs people, and I thought, no, it's time. I'm going to throw the gauntlet down and just make a video anyway. So to be clear, no Tubbs ever came into this house. I didn't even answer the guy. I just made the video off of graphics on the internet. And people were so convinced that they thought I actually had them in the studio. And I'm like, no, I don't have these.
I think it was your acting.
Is that what it was?
Very good.
So-
Very good.
Lots of people are yelling out duck things like Howard the Duck and Count Duckula.
Oh, yeah, Howard the Duck is-
Donald Duck and Gizmo and.
Wouldn't it be weird if they made some of these that were actually duck characters?
That would
to
be
begin
cool,
with?
actually.
But they're not going to do that.
Wouldn't that be neat?
They haven't
That's
done that. It's like, hey,
They
we're
could
gonna
have a group of them and call them the Mighty Ducks.
Oh my gosh. They'd
We're gonna-
win.
Hockey
They'd win in the
jerseys.
end. Like you'd be worried for a
You
little
would
while.
be,
But
and
then
then
they would win.
Then they'd come
Yeah.
in and it'd be like, oh my God, thank God.
But they haven't. See, that's the thing. They haven't done one duck character as a Tubbs duck.
It's too on the nose. It's too
Yeah.
obvious. People,
That's thinking right there. That's marketing. It's
Aaron,
nice to
people are
see.
very perplexed by your hair.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it grows on my head. You're used to seeing it a little bit longer, aren't you? I just sort of rewound it in honor of this whole return of the tape deck. I thought I would just rewind my hair back in.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little.
So you
it's
just
like my
take a
superpower.
pencil and
Yeah. I didn't know if you knew that.
like
trick.
you like stick it in your mouth and.
No, but I got kind of tired of having the longer hair, so I went really short with it. And oddly enough, there's a number of people out there who really like it, and there's a lot of people out there who really don't like it. And I'm having a lot of fun hearing from.
I
both
thought that they
sides.
didn't like the long hair.
Hey, you
I think
guys-
that's swapped.
Oh.
Do you remember in the '90s Felicity when
Yes.
when she cut her hair?
No.
It's
Am I your
it's like
Felicity?
you're like Felicity, Aaron. You
Oh.
guys remember Felicity when she cut her hair short, right? Please yell it out. In
What's the
comments.
next question?
All right. Kylie Minogue duck? That's the next question.
All right, look. First of all,
What-
I was already asked years ago if I would buy a Kylie Minogue Funko Pop, and I said no. And I also won't buy a Kylie Minogue Tubbs, and I didn't buy a Bespin Luke Funko Pop, and it exists, and I won't buy a Bespin Luke Tubbs. So no.
I like how you pronounce that Z.
Z.
It's
Yeah,
Z.
because it's cool, man. It's like plural, but it ends in a Z.
Cuda 70 GT. That sounds like you're a car guy. Who is Felicity? Oh my God, 90s show. It was like, what, mid-90s, right, guys?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like it's really bad, but you should look it up.
It's a J.J. Abrams production.
What?
Oh
Was
yeah,
it?
that's true.
Fair
It was.
warning.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's
Yeah.
and like
I
people
don't like how
stopped
far
watching.
back in time he goes
I
in my
know.
brain
She
now.
had like long, really curly hair, the actress, and she cut her hair really, really short.
for those of
and
you
people
who-
stopped watching the show. It was like, oh my God, it was a huge deal.
For those of you who have really curly hair, you know that there are certain like people who are heroes who have worn curly hair really well, and I think she really was that for a lot of people. So to see it get cut short kind of felt like that. I'd hate to think that I was a long-haired example for any of you. And you're very upset.
Carrie Russell, yes, thank you, Jeff. It was Carrie
Of,
Russell was
Starship
the actress.
Troopers, was it? Is that one of her things?
Don't know.
No,
never-
you're
never
thinking
saw
of the
it.
girl from Dragonheart, who
Ah.
kind of looks like Carrie Russell, who was also in Starship Troopers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
People
love it
keep
when that
saying
happens.
"turn around, Michael,"
Turn
and I don't know
around.
why they keep saying that.
Say
but
what?
everyone's yelling for you to turn around.
Turn around.
I don't really get it.
Do a little turn on the catwalk.
It says "turn around." Why are we saying "turn around"?
Why
I
are we
don't
saying
get it.
turn
Maybe
around?
they just
What
wanted
did
to
I?
see if they could make us do something.
What did I
Okay.
do?
I don't know.
Is it because of the angle of my chair? Do they think I'm?
No.
No, I think you look
They want
great.
you to see something that's probably right behind you that tied into something you said and was funny. And now it's been long enough.
We've
that it's
already
like,
forgotten
oh,
what we
never
said
mind.
2 minutes ago. It's
It would have been funny in the moment.
yeah.
Okay.
Would you do a video on the Playmates Darkwing Duck line?
Yeah, I would. If I owned any
but
of it.
will you?
You know what? Down the road,
Here's
as
the contract. Sign it now.
here's
Would
the
you
thing.
and will you are two different.
Here's the thing. As I get through all these other lines and, finally get, to lines I don't have yet, then yes, that Micronauts. What's the one?
So you're saying it's second, third, fourth tier.
They're not third, fourth tier. They're just, why would I immediately
not
go out?
judging
I've got
you,
so
Melinda.
many things that I
am.
still need to do
I'm just
videos
trying to
on.
be controversial.
And redo videos on.
So Joshua says, so Felicity cutting her hair was like when Metallica cut their hair? Yeah, actually. It was like that.
No, you meant to say, yeah.
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 That's how I meant to say it.
Yep.
Uzi Patrol, thanks again for the super chat. He says, a Loot Crate retrospective would be cool. Why it failed, why it was terrible.
Well,
It led to
unfortunately,
a really good elevator joke for me one time.
unfortunately,
Sure.
I have heard tell that NECA has bought Loot Crate and saved it from bankruptcy. So the model still exists. And they have decided to use it for their own marketing purposes, which disappoints me greatly. So we haven't heard the last of Loot Crate. We almost did, but unfortunately, no.
There were
Michael-
a lot of Funko Pops shipped through Loot Crate.
Do you have the blue snaggletooth?
Yes, I do have the blue snaggletooth.
You guys are just trying to make him get
They
up.
are.
Is this going to be a record, you think? Like
We
getting
could
up?
actually put, like, we could set up a bingo game where every one of these cabinets kind of has an address on it, and
Yeah.
then whichever one he goes to, people can mark on their little sheets and yell, bingo!
That would be cool.
I'm not doing all that work.
I do that in meetings, though.
Do you really?
I
You
have
play
like
bingo?
phrases that people say. It's almost like you have like a bingo card.
Oh, yeah, like synergy, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like that.
So what you're looking at right next to the battle ram, you are looking at an authentic blue snaggletooth that was acquired by Seth Hastings of Plastic Galaxy in Oklahoma City. Great guy. He does Facebook live auctions for vintage toys, I think once a week, maybe even more than that. Check him out on Facebook if you haven't already. And he found that. I just so happened to be walking into his store with Aaron and Tim several years ago.
And I was just telling Michael, I'm like, you don't realize it, but you're super famous. And he was like, no, I'm not. We go in the store and Seth looks up and goes, Michael French?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah, Seth knew who I was. And I was like looking around like, is he talking to someone else? And we got to talking.
No,
and-
the other Michael French.
Right. And he went into the back and he came out with this blue snaggletooth that he wanted to show me because it was just one of the latest things that he'd gotten in the store, and it had its authentic blaster and all that kind of stuff. And that was the one figure I still didn't have. And I said, is it for sale? And he's like, yeah. And I said, name your price. I'll walk out with it. And he named his price, and I bought it. And so it's here. Yeah.
Someone is really eager for you to do the Brave Star videos, and Tara is very interested and has been waiting on that since he started watching the channel. So
yeah, Brave Star is on its way. The challenge with that is I still have to get a few more of the figures. I need Scuzz and Handlebar and Scuzz and whoever the other guy was that's like Fuzz and Scuzz, whatever they're called. I need like those 3 or 4, and then I can do the video. But I need to get those first. So I'm close.
thank you very much for the super chat, Jason Garcia. He says he has no question. He just loves us.
Oh, well, thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
That's very nice.
But yeah, the thing about Brave Star, the scale of it was off the charts when it came to a fully posable action figure, and the price point of them versus what you got and what you had to collect, and the Fort Kirium Main Street play set and all that stuff. I mean, it's a very interesting line, especially because it had the laser light action feature and stuff like that. So, which was a big thing in the late 80s. I'm very interested to finally talk about it and the show, but it's just got to get those last few pieces.
One says, was that ginger ale or apple juice in the glass at the beginning of the Tubbs video? It was bourbon. 9 a.m.
I am not ashamed.
Like that much bourbon.
I am.
Just straight. Just
Well, I deliberately knew that was a lot more whiskey than would normally go in a whiskey glass, but it's because he's supposed to be a depressed executive. And but the thing is that as with all responsible film and video productions, you don't actually imbibe real alcohol when you're also doing take after take after take,
Why?
and you have to edit afterwards. So yes, I am not ashamed to say that for that take it was apple juice. And anybody out there who is going to sit there and try and do a video like that and just throw back actual whiskey, you're an idiot. So
I would.
Why we're not in film.
That's why I don't do it.
But actually, in
Joseph, thank
Hitchhiker's
you.
Guide to the Galaxy, when Ford Fairlane is sitting at the bar throwing back beer after beer, that's actually beer. And you can tell, you can see his eyes at the end of that when they're finally done. He's totally a little...
Kind of like looking just...
See, though?
Well, he takes down a whole pint for one of the takes, and that's an actual
It comes
full
in
pint.
pints?
You gotta understand
having
too.
one.
You gotta understand too. If I had done that, I'd have been literally drinking alone. I'd have been by myself. I mean, there were too many.
Jodif, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, I just want to say I love your channel.
Oh, thank you so much.
Um,
Any questions?
Any
yeah,
questions?
I'm sure that there
Anyone?
are, but I'm just trying to like get to them. Will you ever do Bionic Man toy line review?
Yeah, I'll do $6 Million Man. Yeah.
Will he, or is he really going to? Michael, would you ever get a Felicity haircut?
No, I would not.
But I am trying to talk him into getting a mullet.
There you go.
She is trying to talk me into hockey hair.
Not for the
More
long
of a
term.
MacGyver, maybe.
Just kind of a MacGyver
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
a costume opportunity. Not
Now
not
you're
for the long
talking. You're
term.
talking like season 1, 2.
Season like 1, 2, not like 5.
Right.
Where he's got the straight up mullet.
Right. You don't want to look like the lead singer of Ice House.
No. Although you do love that song.
I do love that song, and I do love Ice House, but boy, that mullet is just spectacular.
So Juan says all you need is an indie hat, Michael, if you're drinking alone.
Oh, that's true. And a monkey. I need a monkey.
You can't have a monkey.
Oh.
Can't have dates in the house either.
Will
Bad
Michael
dates.
do any World War II history videos? Knights of Old loved the Spitfire one. Ace is high.
Thank you. Yeah, I will be doing another number of World War II videos at some point in the future. Some of them are going to dovetail into other things. So, like, for example, I would love to do a video talking about the BBC series Colditz, which, of course, would bring in a lot of World War II history. And then I would also like to do a video about the actual history of the Memphis Belle, because that has kind of been, as much as I love the 1990 film, people I've seen in the comments of the Spitfire video are genuinely confused about the details of the movie versus the details of the Belle itself. So I'd like to do something like that. But yeah, there's a lot of World War II things I'd like to talk about on the channel. But I have to find a way to work them in to other things so that people, so
there's some kind of path
there's
between
a path.
why you came to the channel and how
Right.
you got to the Memphis Belle. and
Right.
other things.
Okay, so I have 2 things I got to read. So first of all, there's someone named the Man Grenade,
Nice.
which is just the best screen name I've read in a long time. Kudos to you, sir. He says one person in the history of mankind has pulled off a mullet, and that is the singer John Parr. I think he still has it. I'm not sure who that is, but that's awesome. Is that the guy from Ice House? Is that the
John
lead-
Parr? I don't think
I don't remember the
so.
lead singer's name.
Isn't
Intern. Is that
is
the
John
guy?
Parr the guy that sang Naughty Naughty?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Scott, thank you very much for the very generous super chat. He says, "RetroBlasting, come for this, come for the toys, stay for the obscure musical references." I mean, I could get more obscure, but let's see. The mullet from the Neverending Story video. What is? You guys yell out. What is your favorite mulleted man from the '80s? Like.
Favorite mulleted man.
Yeah, who's the best? Who's got the best mullet from the '80s? I mean,
And don't say Joe Dirt. That's not from the 80s. That's a
No.
spoof.
That was glued on anyway.
Yeah.
oh, John Parr saying "Man in Motion." Okay, gotcha. I was thinking about Billy Ray Cyrus because we just watched this movie starring Billy Ray
But
Cyrus.
he's not from the 80s.
No, but he lived
he
in
was
the
alive in
80s,
the
and he
80s.
So-
probably
I think
did have
I
a
think we
mullet
missed
in
the
the
super
80s.
chat. I think a super chat just went by.
Joseph again, thank you. He says Joseph again might, I guess his name is Joseph.
Might you
review a new X-Wing toy?
Oh, the new one that came out. The
Does that have the turbo booster with the Go Juice?
no, it's
attachment?
based
Okay.
off the original movie again, and it's $100. And it's
Again,
no
that's
different.
just pocket change for kids these days.
But
you can just roll down the aisle and get you $100 X-wing.
So it is a re-release of their large X-wing fighter that they've been modifying and improving on since all the way back in 1996 or whatever, and or 96, 97. And I have the Dagobah raising the X-wing out of the swamp incarnation of that X-wing toy hanging in the TV room over there. And so at $100, I just don't feel like it's worth it for me to go buy that one. I mean, it's really no different at the end of the day than the ones they've already released before. It just has a different paint job. So I don't really have much of an incentive to go get that. If you don't already have one, you could probably get one complete for $50 or $60 online, secondhand. But no, I don't have any plans to get it unless it goes on deep clearance. So
Sal, thank you again for the super chat. Sal says, some people wait for long stretches for toys that made us. I, on the other hand, prefer the more refined, steady content of RetroBlasting, and the best mullet is Patrick Swayze from Roadhouse. I do love the Patrick Swayze. I've got a bunch of others yelled out here. John Stamos, Mel Gibson,
John Stamos, have mercy.
Don Johnson, Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon.
But aren't those not
Kurt
those
Russell.
aren't really mullets though? Aren't they
Some
more
of them
like,
are more mullets than others.
aren't they kind of like power flows? Like they're kind of like these just like, you know, just they're all full on. Like there's no.
Well, the person who's saying the Never-Ending Story song, theirs was like a very like styled and glamorous mullet. So I mean, we were already including near mullets.
Right.
See, I think now what people think of as a mullet, to me anyway, is like what Billy Ray Cyrus has, where it's really short in the front.
Did we
and
miss
really
the
long in the
spike
back.
and curl.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I'm just making sure.
No.
Just making sure. Yeah, I always thought that if it was like Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson.
Alex Winter from the Lost Boys. Good point. That
Yeah,
one
see?
was
That's a mullet.
That's a mullet. Whereas like
Didn't I yell
Kiefer
mullet?
Sutherland
Yeah, for Kiefer.
doesn't really. That's kind of on the
See,
shorter.
the
so
thing
it's just
is
sort of
that
like
MacGyver's
that's more MacGyver.
MacGyver doesn't go full mullet until season 5.
Mullites.
Right.
Perfect.
MacGyver definitely
just
has
created
kind of I don't know what you'd call it in first few seasons. It's
Mullight.
not a mullet. It's
It's a mole light.
It's a Mullite, as the Matt Wolf said, which is another great screen name that I like a lot. So Kirk Cameron, Ricky Schroeder had good mullets. I don't remember their hair. Marky Post actually had a good mullet. You're right, she did. And here's the question: can women have mullets?
Marky Post proves they can
I mean,
and did.
I think, mullet is a mindset.
oh man, Yahoo Serious. Do you
What
guys
was that
remember
horrible
that?
hairstyle that Courtney Cox had in Scream 3 that's become a meme?
Oh, the really short bangs.
Uh-huh.
I think she was going for a Betty Page, and then
Oh, but it
just
Did
failed.
not.
Ooh.
No, someone recently
Sometimes-
posted that on Twitter, and then she just replied like, "Are you effing serious?"
Well, sometimes, like, if you're like me and you try to have bangs, it kind of just does this. Like, your hair is like, nope, I'm not cooperating with that. But, like, you've already cut it short, and so they just kind of stick out like that.
Bono was a good call out.
Oh,
sure.
Bono, yeah, true. No one talks about Night Court enough.
True story. I think he found what he was looking for.
Zing.
Mm.
And it was a discotheque.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Disco the Q. I think that's how it's pronounced.
So the Man Grenade wants to know, do you have any really good Star Wars memories directly relating to Christmas? Well, Michael actually does have a great Star Wars story. I don't know if you're going to tell the one that I'm thinking of, but
Is it about my brother?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell that story.
Christmas, 1983.
Settle in.
Settle in.
Get ready, everyone.
So the family tradition at the French household when I was growing up was that on Christmas Eve, in the evening, my brother and I could exchange the gifts that we got each other. And then Christmas morning, we would get to open everything else. So my brother and my mom, my brother's 2 years younger than me. It was 83. I was 5 years old. So my brother's 3. Okay. But even then, so anyway, my mom and my brother go downstairs. We had the split level where the den was recessed off the kitchen by like 4 steps. And then there was this kind of front sort of office room. They go back there because he's wrapping a gift for me for Christmas. But the odd part was I knew that they were wrapping a gift down there. So clearly it wasn't from Santa, but it wasn't the one that he was giving me. I don't know. So anyway, they come back around a few minutes later. I'm sitting up at the breakfast kitchen table, whatever you want to call it. And they come up the little stairs, and my mom looks right down at my brother, and he's got this box. And she says, "Now remember, Jonathan, don't tell him what it is." And he immediately looks right at me, and he says, "Merry Christmas, Michael. It's the X-Wing fighter." And then just trundles off and puts it under the tree in the front room. And I'm like, this kid clearly has an IQ problem or something.
Maybe he was just trying to poke at you.
And so I
That's pretty
said,
advanced trolling for 3.
so I said, I looked at my mom.
Some kids are gifted.
And I said, because, the X-Wing, I didn't have a Millennium Falcon or anything like that. The X-Wing was one of my first major vehicles I was going to be wanting from Star Wars because I was such a Luke Skywalker fan. I had asked for this thing. And I said, well, I know what it is. And I said, Mom, why don't I just open that? As a 5-year-old, I'm trying to have this logic issue with her about it. And she goes, no, that's not what Jonathan got you for Christmas, which means it's not what Mom designated that Jonathan got me for Christmas because...
Hey, rules is rules.
Well, it's... So I looked at her and I said, well, wait a minute. I said, if I open what Jonathan gets me, I said, then I'll already know what that is and what the other one is.
That is pretty infallible logic.
And she's like, no, you need to stop whining and you're going to open this one anyway. And I went,
Michael was in a pickle.
Okay. So I opened the thing up and it's the Y-Wing fighter, which is awesome. Not a crappy toy at all. Not complaining that it's the Y-Wing fighter. But I was still annoyed by the logic problem of it. It's like now two toys have been revealed to me. 2 gifts have been revealed. When they could have salvaged it and just revealed one.
And also the Y-Wing was probably a little bit more of a disappointment because you're like, but I really want that.
Yeah, because they made a great toy a disappointment by default.
Yeah.
Because so the next morning I received the X-Wing and the Ewok village, and I believe a few random figures like skiff guards and stuff like that. I received a few. So, but my point in saying that is that was like Star Wars Christmas. That was my Star Wars Christmas.
A pretty big Star Wars Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be hard pressed to find something like that right now.
Yeah.
For a Christmas.
Right. Yeah. So that's one of my biggest Star Wars Christmas memories. Was it a Christmas memory that they were asking about, or just Star Wars?
It was Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas,
Star
yeah.
Wars. Christmas Star Wars memories.
Yeah, that would have been my only Christmas Star Wars memory because the next year was the G.I. Joe hovercraft.
They wanted to know if what your brother does now, actually.
Now my brother is an author. He wrote. He has a what do you call it? A book deal. And he writes fantasy novels. He wrote a book called The Gray Bastards, and he's currently about to launch the sequel to that. So
kind of got put on the spot there.
That's fine.
No pressure.
I wouldn't have been able to remember all the details, the names and everything. So.
Was that the battle-damaged X-Wing with the stickers?
Yes. In that video, you are seeing my childhood X-Wing from that Christmas. That is the one.
What a legacy.
And I don't know if you can see behind me, that's the Y-Wing right there. That's the actual childhood Y-Wing, and then right below it is the X-Wing from that very Christmas.
That very Christmas.
Well, hey, you know what? They are old, lifelong friends.
The Matt Wolf says, now I have an X-Wing. Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, those words have rung in my ears for 36 years. Merry Christmas, Michael. It's the X-Wing fighter. Do-de-do-de-do.
Peter Venkman says, I'd like to hear your brother's version of the story.
My brother doesn't remember this.
He was 3.
Have you asked him? I'm sure you've told the story in front of him.
It's been mentioned before, but Jonathan is always using an excuse as to why his misdeeds are always like forgivable. I was 20 years younger then when I wrecked your car. It's like, well, that doesn't excuse you wrecking the car. Like it's that kind of crap.
Why'd you let him drive it when he was 10?
It really is your fault, Michael. Let's see. You guys just say things.
Say things?
Yeah, it's just like
Well,
Electric eels.
I would like to put out a question to the audience, to everyone watching. We're talking about these childhood memories right now, and I was wondering if you guys could shout out any particular, even if it's just one single childhood toy that you have left that's been with you your whole life. Like I'm very fortunate in that 90% of my childhood toys that I was really involved, collecting and stuff are still with me in one form or another. But even if you just have one left, like what are the ones that are still with you right now? Like, is there one, two, a small grouping? I'd love to know.
Scott, thank you for the super chat. Scott says the D&D video featuring your brother actually prompted me to complete my Conan the Barbarian comic collection.
Yes. If you'd like to see my brother, he is in the Dungeons and Dragons 2-part special.
That's right, he is.
But yeah, I'm glad that you were able to complete that collection because now did he say action figure collection or did he say comic collection? Mm-hmm. Yeah, between the comics and the action figures and just the role-playing books back then, you remember those? The Advanced Dungeons and Dragons role-playing books were just a library. Those are all
Some of those are worth.
Yeah, they're worth
Weirdly,
money.
a lot of those vanished during the Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
Which I went through. So.
Well, I mean, like if you walked into a Walden Books or something like that, you would see them.
Yeah, that was steered away.
Guts.
Oh, you weren't allowed into a Walden
No, I
Books?
mean, I could go into a Walden Books.
You're not allowed to read.
I was steered away from Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, yeah, no,
books and other
I get that. I get that you didn't own them, but you would have seen them on store shelves.
I was aware.
Yeah.
I was aware of them.
Okay.
Guts says none of my toys from my childhood exist. My mom never let me live it down that I had a lot of great ones and broke all of them. Not my fault. I wanted to recreate what I saw in the cartoons.
Ah, right.
Someone says 1980 was my first expectation of Star Wars toys. I maybe experience? I'm not sure.
Experience.
I got Gabriel Lone Ranger in silver, the big one. No way I could hide my disappointment. I feel bad for my parents now.
We all have those moments where we're like, oh.
Yeah, when I got that Raggedy Ann doll from my grandma and I threw a fit.
Did he say he got the big silver and Lone Ranger?
Mm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Those are actually rather valuable now from what I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now your parents are disappointed in you.
The only childhood toys I have left are my Jabba the Hutt. This is from Brian, which I recently built a palace playset for, and Mego Pocket Heroes Lex Luthor, which has an uncanny sculpt of Gene Hackman.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you got little Gene.
Yeah, my first action figures were Mego Pocket Heroes. The only one I have left of my childhood originals is Spider-Man, but I've since replaced all of them with more mintier examples, Spider-Man, Green Goblin, and the Hulk. And then on the last live stream, we were donated Superman and Batman from that line. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Harbinger 1861 says, I have my childhood Boba Fett, Yoda, Coleco, PVC, Mario, Mega Hulk, and Buck Rogers, and not much else.
That's a good grouping.
I wonder if those were just like his favorites, and then they got put in a special shoebox and not sold at garage sales, or because that's where a lot of my toys walked out of the house was at garage sales.
Right.
My parents loved just sort of like, we'll just take them all, and then I would slowly like find them and just sneak them back into the house, like as my parents weren't, paying attention.
Yeah, when I went off to college, a lot of my stuff kind of was in boxes. They got moved to the garage, and then I'd get a call that said, hey, we're going to let go of this stuff if you don't want it. And I was like, yeah, I'm too cool for that stuff now.
Right.
Sure.
And then, I'd come home and be like, where's this? And Mom's like,
right.
You fool.
That's the story of a lot of kids from when we were growing up.
Yeah, this Call's Toy Story says, I only have a book, a teddy bear. My dad threw my toys away all the time.
Oh, sorry. Well, at least you got the teddy bear. I've still got my teddy bear.
Yeah, Steven wants to know, what's your favorite custom toy?
My favorite custom toy is the Conquest. I go get it.
Do that. Off he goes.
Off he goes.
For the conquest. Oh,
So-
it's blinding me.
The Man Grenade wrote, I lost all my toys through life circumstance, but my wife has kindly started rebuilding my vintage Star Wars collection. That's pretty awesome of your wife. When I first read your comment, I thought it said, I lost my wife. And I was like, wow, that's dark. But anyway, I'm glad that's not what it says. So.
That thing is blinding.
This right here is the greatest custom toy I have ever seen. And it is gorgeous, and I love it. And
It is pretty cool.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Conquest before I got this thing.
I see what you're talking about, though.
Holy
When you see
cow.
it like that.
Oh, man.
It's pretty awesome.
It's amazing.
Is that where the gas goes in?
It's where the gas goes in there, yeah. And then you sort of fly off there and fight Cobra.
Herb says he wants another KLF Dreamland. Do you mean another episode on the KLF or another one like the KLF episode?
We would lose our minds if we went back
We're
into
only
that
now
vortex.
starting to recover from that. But yeah,
full
we're
stop. That
we're
was-
always looking for another KLF level episode that's that crazy. It's just hard to find that many things like that. Knights of Old has a question, Michael, and he says, how was watching cartoons in the UK different? Did you miss out on some USA cartoons?
Yes, I did miss out on USA cartoons, but I wasn't aware of them. So I didn't even know what I was missing till I got back, and several years later I'd hear about a cartoon that's no longer on and be like, what was that? And they'd be like, oh, it was on in the early 90s. I'd be like, oh, I missed it. So like I was watching, most of the cartoons I saw were on a compilation UK television show called DJ Cat, which they ran Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, and I believe they ran Samurai Pizza Cats and a number of other cartoons.
Samurai Pizza Cat.
And so
Which British cartoon would you import to the United States if you had the chance?
British cartoon.
Like, what did you get to see that you've since found out wasn't here?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And one that you are ill prepared to answer, it seems.
Well, it's
Mr. Misty says he customized a Conquest with flat black paint so it looks stealth. That sounds cool too, actually.
yeah. Every single
Not to distract you.
No,
I'm
no.
just
Every
giving you
single
time to
paint
think.
color that they didn't make the Conquest is better than what they made the
I'm
Conquest
starting
look
to
like.
get this
Yeah,
idea
that's
there needs
true.
to be like a conquest convention
I
where
feel
everybody
like-
brings their
I feel
Uh-huh.
like, yes, that would be
version
fun. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know what we could all do is we could all get a Conquest and then each one of us, like, kind of like a jack-o'-lantern contest, but we
could be
each
like Hell's
customize
Kitchen.
it and then we, like, bring them onto the show and then you guys get to vote on which one's the coolest.
Every single Conquest made after the original Conquest was superior to the original
I
Conquest.
think you have an advantage, artist.
I can prove it.
Uh-oh.
Here he
again.
goes.
Um,
Surely he doesn't have another conquest.
Guts says, it surprised me in Australia growing up in the 80s that, yes, we got US and UK cartoons, but we were like 2 to 3 years behind on the trends. That's interesting.
1998 re-release of the Conquest, Toys R Us exclusive, awesome camo pattern. Looks almost like a mid-war Spitfire camo pattern. Amazing looking plane. The original plane is a dog.
What was the color of the original? The green?
will show you.
Oh,
Dog
great.
colored.
Dog colored. Dogs come in lots of colors.
That's true. And I like dogs.
Jody says that Tim hasn't talked about Patreon once today. I'll talk about it. You
Yeah.
know, if you join our Patreon, you get to see lots of cool stuff that you might not otherwise see. That's the original.
This is the original. Yellow missiles on a dull gray, sleepy gray
You know what
body.
it kind of looks like is a sports jersey of some form.
I was thinking that. The same
It
thing.
just,
like
yeah.
a
It's
college
like a
suit.
weird
looks
color
tired.
combo.
It just looks kind of tired and sad.
I guess I'll go.
Dogs
find-
are awesome, cute fluff. Not,
That was a bad place to pick that.
but yeah, the Patreon. You know, Michael does like pretty much something daily, if not multiple things. Daily.
Yeah. The someone was asking about the Patreon.
Well, someone was making fun of Tim for not having mentioned it 10 times today. but
Okay. Well,
Speaking of which, I haven't heard. I was about to say I haven't heard Tim in a while. Tim, are you okay?
was it?
But no, go ahead and tell people what they could expect if,
Yeah,
if you're not on the Patreon.
Yeah,
there's
I'll just tell you
not
real-
to say
yeah.
you have to, of course.
No,
at
but if
all.
somebody wants to know, the Patreon is. You'll notice that I don't harp on the Patreon on any of my videos because I feel like you guys would insult your intelligence and it would take away from the experience of the videos that I make. The videos that I make for the most part are supposed to be an experience. And I take pride in that. And so I don't want to constantly harass you guys about ring the bell for notifications and click that like and click that subscribe and la 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 la. Some people would say I'm not a very good salesman. Maybe I'm not. But The Patreon does exist. It was made by your demand. You guys demanded it for several years, and so we finally said, okay, we will do it. And a lot of people really have contributed to it and really like it. And it's a small Patreon, but I do a morning message almost every day. I call it like the semi-daily or almost daily morning message, where I kind of give production updates and things that are happening, and just sort of an off-the-cuff kind of thing for everybody. You get all the videos 24 to 48 hours early, sometimes a week early, which really confuses some people on YouTube when they finally land, because they're like, wait a minute, I thought I'd be the first poster, and I'm like, this thing's like a week old. I'm like, well, some videos stay on Patreon longer because I'm working on something else anyway. So those videos come out early, and then there's other tiers. Like the second tier, I send behind the scenes photographs to. The lens clips go to everybody, if I recall, I think. And then the top tier is where all of the lost videos are. So if you're a top tier patron, you still have access to all the videos that YouTube has copyright stricken into purgatory. So that's where they all live.
Hi, Tim.
And they live on a Dropbox where they can't be taken down. So.
And we're working on a top secret project.
We're working on a top secret
It's
project.
not top
apparently.
secret anymore now.
It's
just
so
regular
secret. It's so secret. I don't even know what.
Are
the
you
hell he's
talking about the?
Nah,
Okay.
It's
Join Patreon to know what.
Oh, the top secret project that I'm still not quite sure. Yeah, I figured that's what it was, but I don't want to say.
No.
Anyway,
something special.
but yeah, so that's that. And now we can move on with our lives. I think we have a super chat.
We do. Uzi Patrol, thank you again for a super chat. He says, when I was 11, I won the Ghostbusters Ghost Command in a contest. Wow, that's amazing.
Nice.
I also won Tracy and Eddie. When I got older, my parents donated it to relatives in another country. Wow, the shipping must have been a real bear.
Yeah, for real.
Man. Have you gotten any more hate about the World War II content, Michael?
I haven't gotten too much hate. I did get a few people who they clearly have a pretentious attitude toward history. They're armchair historians, and they're also super judgy types. You know the type I'm talking about, where they impose 21st century values on past historical events. And so I got a little bit of that, but not much. Mostly everything was very supportive and very enthusiastic, and I appreciate that. So
somebody mentioned earlier that the live stream is not as as awesome as your regular videos, and I just wanted to say, like, yeah, we try to give like a whole bunch of different kinds of content out there. Like, we want to be able to have these sort of conversations where we get to kind of talk back to you guys. And then also Michael has his fully produced videos.
How would the live stream be as awesome as a fully scripted, researched, post-produced piece of content?
I mean, I guess if I was doing
how exactly to the commenter, how exactly is this live off-the-cuff component supposed to be as tightly wound and everything as, say, the Tubbs video or the Spitfire video? How is that supposed to work? I'd really like to know, because it's like, if there's some magical way to improve a live stream and make it this like variety, Merv Griffin show or something like that, then I would love to know how that's supposed to operate, because clearly I'm falling down on the job.
Lazy.
I'm going to go put the Conquest away. It's making me angry.
Scott Knudsen says...
Why don't you take a little walk there, Michael?
Thank you again, Scott, for the super chat. Scott says, Patreon is a good way to insulate the channel against arbitrary rules passed by certain other platforms, not to harp on it or anything. Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. It's kind of crazy out there in the world, so... let's see.
You'll notice Michael doesn't interact well with people who want to use this channel to advertise their toys, which means, yeah, that's probably not going to be a source of income or support for the channel.
No,
either,
I have taken, on occasion, when a company reaches out to me like XXVII did, and then I showed the emails where they said, no, there's no expectation, there's no embargo, there's no caveats, and I show that, then I'm comfortable taking that from them, and then I do an honest review. Great example that just happened recently. I did the review of the Airfix quick build airplanes that I bought at the model shop in York, England. Well, The U.S. arm of that company saw that video, loved it, reached out to us, and gave us an opportunity to review a slot car set. And I said, okay, great. So I have no problem, because they've seen my objective review of one of their products and they liked it. I had no problem accepting the slot car set to review because clearly they're okay with an objective review. So like on a case-by-case basis, but no. Tubs? No, I'm not going to insult you guys reviewing that. Sorry, what's so funny over there? What's going on?
Someone asked if you had a whiskey just off shot.
No, I don't do that. I don't.
He doesn't mix
He
it
doesn't.
with
I
He
don't.
doesn't
No.
really. It's funny to think about though. That's just for
should
you
from time to
guys.
time.
Yeah. That is a really weird question. Kenny says, "Hey, does anyone here really like curry?" I don't know what that means.
I think he's answering another chatter.
Somebody else.
They're talking within the.
But
within the
somebody else asked me that on Facebook private message a few days ago on RetroBlasting.
chat. Oh, it's one of those curry questions.
I don't understand that.
Do they mean Tim Curry?
No, they just said curry.
Almost everybody likes Tim Curry.
No, curry. Just curry.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I was making
He's
some
just
curry joke.
making it.
Is this like a new thing?
I like curry. Is
Yeah.
that wrong?
What's your favorite kind of curry?
I like red curry.
Same here, but I can go for a yellow curry from time to time.
Potatoes with
Yeah,
red curry.
little
I mean
massaman.
yellow. Yeah, massamans. Super
good stuff.
delicious.
Maybe after the live stream, all of us can go get some curry.
You know, when we were in England, all I wanted to do was eat curries because they've got some great curries over there. But Michael's not a fan, so I finally forced him to go to an Indian restaurant, though. So he wasn't happy, but I was, and that's all that matters.
Good job, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Showed some fortitude.
Put the bangers and mash down and had some curry.
Mr. T and Cyborg is.
That the blue guy between Mr. T and Cyborg is one of the visionaries from Hasbro from the late 80s, I guess, 87, I believe. And they have holograms on their chests. So I'll be doing a video about that at some point in the future. Hopefully, maybe Matt from Reclaimers Vintage Toys or somebody can help me, finalize the line because I don't have enough of them to do a full video review.
Do you?
I'm hearing a laugh.
I don't know.
It's because last time you got up, they said, "Oh, he's up for another swig."
I'm not drinking.
One of these times you got to come back and just be like, "Hey, everybody, I'm so mad."
Frank says, every time Michael stands up, I stand up and have a drink, and now I can't stand up, and my glass is once again empty.
I'm not. I am not
I
drinking.
feel like we need a little counter, like up here,
Ding.
and then it just counts every time he stands up.
Look, I was just cleaning up the table.
That way, if you join a show already in progress, you can just get caught up.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
27. Oh my goodness.
What is the item next to the Thunderhawk at the end of the table?
That is a Starcom. I can't remember the exact name of it, and Kyle is going to kill me because Kyle and I talk Starcom, but he's a Starcom expert over at Yojo Outlet. But it is a small vehicle that folds up and goes into the rear cargo hold of the Starmax bomber. But it was a separate vehicle that you could buy because that was the beauty of Starcom, is that everything was modular. So if you bought the Starmax bomber, maybe you already had a vehicle that was of that standard size that could fold up into the cargo bay.
Is it also a surfboard?
No, it is not. But I can see why you might make that mistake.
Yeah, I was a little concerned.
Knights of Old says, please go retro toy hunting in Japan and make a vid. I would love to do that. When this channel first started, one of the ideas, if you remember, Michael, that we had was to go to Japan and try to figure out some way to interview some of the guys who created the original Go Lion to talk about and to sort of do almost a documentary to try to figure out what was the context for viewership of those types of cartoons in Japan when they first came out. Like, were they primetime TV shows? Was the target audience just like everyone, sort of like Family Ties would have been here in the United States? Or, what was the objective and what was sort of the process of making those shows? And, why do we think that Japan was so much more open to animation than the U.S., which sort of really saw it as only a kid thing. So I thought that was kind of an interesting view on that, but it never actually happened. But
Right.
I would love to go to Japan.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Japan.
Also, mochi candy.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I hear
Well,
they
you
make-
don't like that?
It's great.
Yep.
It's great.
Esri says someone reminds him of Fox Mulder. Is that you, Michael? You kind of remind me of Fox Mulder.
Truth is out there.
I mean, maybe.
Muhammad wants to see a closer look at the Mr. T figure.
Okay.
Hang on, don't collide in the middle.
Is that good?
Waiting on it to queue up. You just got up on our screen. There, you've lifted it now. By the head. Ow, ow, ow.
I pity the fool, lift me by my head.
Pick me up on my head. He's a little blurry.
It's
You
because
may
you've
have
got him
fixed
in
that.
front of there.
It goes back and forth.
Nope, it's not focusing on it.
No, they've been looking at a blurry Mr.
there,
T
there he
for
is.
at
There
least
he
30
is.
seconds. Now he's
Now it's
blurry
blurry.
again. He's in focus again.
I could just zoom the camera.
It's probably good enough.
Fine.
Okay,
I really want this to be the freeze frame for the video.
I do too.
You just holding Mr. T at the camera. I want those shoes.
Portland says, ever thought about doing an illustrated book summing up the great content from the show?
Ever thought about doing what?
An illustrated book summing up the great content from the show.
Well, the trick with that, of course, is copyrights on all the various things. Right now, we're kind of largely still in a Wild West kind of mode.
Safe harbor
safe
rules.
harbor with YouTube and internet social media. When it comes to suddenly putting that on disc media or putting it in printed form, yeah, there are unauthorized ways to do that, but you have to be careful about that. I'd be happy to go down that road. It's just a matter of finding the time because there's a lot of moving parts to a channel like this. And what you see right now, minus our social media admin, Tim Ward, who is remote, there's only 5 of us that run RetroBlasting. So it would be challenging. And, we've all got, day jobs and all that kind of stuff. So it would be challenging to also start working on a book or something like that. It's almost like you have to do one or the other. People that make the books generally don't run very robust YouTube channels like this. And people that do YouTube like this generally don't write books and then, that kind of thing. So
Juan says he's patiently waiting for the Star Wars Follies on the holiday special.
Oh, you are in luck, Juan. Tom Burgess and I are doing that this December. That is the Star
It's
Wars.
going to be a very magical Christmas time this year.
Yep. Tom Burgess from I Grew Up Star Wars and I are doing the Star Wars Follies on the holiday special next month.
The
Who
bearded
really
wonder
loves?
himself.
He loves the
That's
holiday
why I
special.
want him on. He is the expert on the holiday special, and I want him on that episode, and he has agreed.
Knights of Old told me to Michael that I should get you the 1940 Captain America #1 comic book for Christmas.
Oh,
That's a lot.
We
I
would-
just got him a Spitfire flight. I think we're done with gifts for a while.
Yeah,
this
we'll,
just turned into a heist movie.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
would require a
Are you
lot.
paying him, Michael?
No, but he's just got very good
It sounded
taste.
very defensive
It's.
to me.
I mean,
Well, I heard that we're over time.
What is time?
okay. Sorry, Mohammed, not Muhammad. I was just saying Muhammad. So Muhammad.
Did somebody
Mr.
try and
Moo.
correct you?
Yeah, he says no hate, but you said my name wrong. I did not intend to. I hate when people say my name wrong, so I get it.
I would hate not to find out I said somebody's name wrong, so thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Are you drinking Red Bull, Aaron?
Not currently, but now I am.
Does it give you wings? Not yet.
No, just 40 years of weight on my back.
Cute Fluff asks, would you ever do a live sale? We actually did a live sale and kind of had a not fun outcome on that. So I don't know if we're going to be jumping in to do another one.
It went a little wild.
It went a little,
We
went a little crazy.
we sold a Ghost Command, a Filmation Ghost Command, and I honored the final price on it, even though it was disastrously low. So my point in saying that is, we didn't get the interest on the live auction as far as buyers that we would have hoped. And so between myself and Matt Swafford at Reclaimers, again, I'm not in the business of being a toy seller, but we did that as a special event because we were tied in with an actual toy seller. But there were we took some black eyes on some of that, but honored what we said we were going to do. So,
But I will say that was one that I spectated. I wasn't able to be here that day, nor would have I wanted to come between you guys and the auctioning. But I enjoyed the presentation of it, so I watched a large portion.
Oh,
of
well,
it,
that's good.
and it was kind of fun to watch.
okay.
It was stressful on the backside of the camera. I'll
Yeah,
tell
I
you that.
think we learned a lot of lessons on like let's have things written down and documented.
Yeah, but we're not really a toy sales
Yeah.
place. Like we don't have a lot of.
Is that fun, really?
No, not for me. I mean, I buy to collect for the videos. I don't buy to then resell. So, yeah, and it just gets muddy. And I know we're over time and we probably need to end the live stream at some point, but I just want to say this because there's been some controversy about this and this part of it hasn't been mentioned. Out in the toy space right now, you have a number of people that run these toy collector groups or social media portals, things like that. And wow, we just lost a light. And
Goodbye, light.
goodbye, light.
I
It's been
hardly
it's
need
been
you.
good knowing you. I guess I'll have to replace that one.
That light's no one's been.
But
more human.
we the long and the short of it is a lot of them seem to also be toy sellers. And I find that to be rather unethical at a certain point because what you're doing is you're trying to tell people about toys and you're trying to tell people what they should collect and give them advice on how to collect and all this kind of stuff. And then you turn around and say, oh, and by the way, you should really buy from me.
Is that kind of like the emissions person that you take your car to, then turning around and saying, "I can repair your car that I just said won't pass
kinda.
emissions"?
It's kind of
Yeah.
like the kid that started all these issues that are on YouTube right now, the Ryan's Toys
Right.
thing, where you know,
Yeah.
Conflict of interest.
I'm
right?
yeah,
And I like it when sellers, like for example, the Seth Hastings Plastic Galaxy I mentioned earlier, he is a toy seller. That's what he does. He doesn't run, a collector group and try and set rules or anything like that. He is just, I'm an ethical seller. I'll tell you what the condition is and I sell the toy, right? Me, I'm somebody that looks at the history and makes videos about it and tells you this toy's fragile, this toy had this problem, this toy's really awesome, but I don't then turn around and say, and by the way,
You'll
if
say buy it, but not buy
not
it from me.
buy it from me. Like I'm not occasionally as a private person, I have sold things on eBay or Etsy like anybody else, but I am not in the business of selling stuff to you. I'm in the business of informing and entertaining you. And I don't want to mix those muddy waters. So, yeah.
This person wants to know if we call ourselves Gen Xers or Millennials.
I'm a Gen Xer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
X, yeah. We're all Xers.
We were all born in the 70s, though. He says I was born in the early 80s and I always thought he's a millennial. I tend to think millennial starts at 1980. If you were born in 1980 or after, to me, you're a millennial. Now,
There's no judgment
there's no
there.
line.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with millennials. A lot of people love to make fun of them and dog them out.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
really
right at
see the
tail
point in
end.
that, but
Yeah,
so I get scraped off a lot, and
That's
I'll be
true.
considered a millennial by some, schools of thought, and then an Xer by some schools. So I kind of live on both sides of that coin. So like, I'll know things about the '90s that they don't know or don't care about, and then they'll know stuff about the '80s that I don't know. But I still feel real comfortable, just right here in this room. So
Yeah.
yeah. One other person asked what each of our favorite bands are.
Go ahead.
Band? It's as opposed to like an individual artist, I would say
Oh wow.
Edge of Sanity is probably my favorite band.
What about you?
Individual artist, probably Tori Amos or Tom Waits, which is weird, but
Right now,
that's-
I've been listening to a lot of Daylight Dies, some heavier stuff. But my favorites for me are tough because it just depends on the week. So ask me next week, and I'll give you another name.
My favorite band?
Bruce Hornsby in the news.
Huey Lewis in the
Yeah,
news.
they mixed together. It was the greatest, most adventurous.
It's like-
crossover.
it's
yes,
not-
Dan Swano.
It's like not
Yes.
to take anything away from the news, but it's really Huey Lewis, right? I mean, it's not.
Right.
So like AC/DC, that was Melinda and I's first date, so I really love that band.
That's a heck of a
Aw,
first
that's
date,
so
man.
romantic.
I also I love Duran Duran.
I just like one of the Durans.
Yeah, but as far as solo artists, Kylie Minogue. Kylie Minogue is my favorite solo
The
artist.
Range, by the way, I think is what I was like.
The Range.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I
I guess we're winding down, or
We're
do we
probably
need,
winding down. I don't
Okay.
know.
how far over time
It's
are we?
3:24.
Oh
so-
gosh, yeah, we're way past.
It didn't feel that long, though. It was
no,
a
no, it was
lot of
good.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. I hope you've had some fun this live stream. This will be up for anybody who missed part of it. The rest of it will be processed and put up on YouTube as usual.
With better sound this time.
Yeah, with better sound.
New and improved.
Although I edited that one and I
Yeah.
cut the soundless part out.
Thank you for that.
So I hope you guys are going to have a good rest of your weekend. If you need to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, YouTube. We're easy to access. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for all the super chats again, you guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.